we got to the final section of this course, and in this part, we will cover the shipping and fulfilling, which can be mind-boggling for a lot of people. Because this is such a massive topic, I will just scratch the surface. If you have any other questions about it, you can feel free to ask me or ask in the Facebook groups and so forth. I'm sure people will be happy to help. The main question is in fulfillment. You have a crowdfunding project and somebody in a country such as Belgium backed your project. How do you get your game from your manufacturer all the way to the backer? And not only that, if you have 500 backers or 1,000 backers, how do you get 1,000 games plus additional products from your factory all the way to the end backers? To manage that, we basically separate the world into 3 zones. Let me show you on the map what these zones are. So I just brought up this world map to show you how the world is divided into 3 zones. Obviously, this is again for smaller crowdfunding publishers. If you're a massive large publisher, for example, and you have 2,000 people in Australia alone, can be your own kind of zone. We're talking about normal, smaller crowdfunding campaigns. We will divide the world into APAC countries. APAC countries include everything in the Asia Pacific, not including New Zealand, but including Australia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, Japan, Korea, and so forth and so on. Then we have obviously Europe and the UK, which also include Iceland. Even though Iceland is a little expensive, they can even include Greenland, but everything in Europe and the UK. After this, we have North America, basically the United States, which has a majority of backers, and the United States will take care of Canada, even Mexico, in some Central America areas. Okay, so basically we have APAC, we have Europe, which is from the UK, and then we have the United States to Canada and Central America. The fourth section or part of the world is actually what we call rest of the world. Rest of the world are countries that are very, very difficult to ship to. And the only option is to ship by FedEx or by UPS or by China Post directly from China to those countries. These countries include Asia, so Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, include all of Africa and the most of South America. These 3 zones, they're so difficult to reach. Their price for starting for like 1 kilo is $40 or $45. Yeah, you can put them on your campaign saying rest of the world. However, don't expect to get too many backers from those locations. Now that we understood the different zones in the world, the question is, how do we get your game from the factory to the backer? So the option number 1 is shipping directly from China using China Post. If your game is light enough, around not more than 1.5 kilos, which is like 3.2 pounds, there's a very good option of sending directly from China. If your game is a heavier game, you need to take the game from China, ship the game from China all the way to a warehouse in that zone, clear customs, get it to the warehouse, and then have that warehouse send your games out to the backers. And this can be a very, very difficult process. Okay, so you do need to have a fulfillment company or somebody who has helped you before to do it together with you. If you work and produce with your time, we will be more than happy to help you ship to the warehouses of your choice, or if you want to, for us to manage all of your fulfillment, directly from us in-house, we can also do that. We simply send and find the best solution for your games. This is a very, very complicated process. So I personally, even if you don't choose Zero Time, I strongly recommend you have somebody to help you with the fulfillment, especially if it's your first time. So there's another one option to get games to backers, and that is mostly in your own country, because the warehouses and fulfillment centers, they charge money and they make their profit. If you are very tight on cash and you don't mind dealing with extra work, I would recommend for you to do your own fulfillment in your own country. For example, if you're from the US and most of your backers are from the US, so let's say you got 400 backers in total, 350 of them are all in the US, and you're tight on money, you can simply get your games yourself and fulfill them by yourself as well. This will save you the pick and pack costs, it will save you the additional charges of the fulfillment center, and so forth and so on. I will walk you through these prices so you understand, but theoretically, you can also do fulfillment yourself. Once you get the games, you can put them in boxes, put the labels on them, and simply take all of them to the post office and fulfill them yourself. And that will save some money, maybe $500 or $600, maybe $800, depending on how many backers you have. For me to show you the prices of fulfillment, I thought it will be best if I show you my backend, a backend that I've built for the prices and to calculate fulfillment for game creators. Before we dive in, I need you to notice that there are 2 types of weight. One of them is the actual weight and the other one is volume weight. The best example is a light game such as this. This is a small little game, sells in retail shops. It is very, very light, not even 10 ounces. However, we also have something that is called volume weight. The volume weight does not care how much the item or the product actually weighs, but it cares about how much space it takes. So if I do it with inches, with this one, we have over here 7.5 for the length, and then we have 4.5 for the width, and another 3.2 for the width. This will give us 108 cubic inches within this box. And then I take this and I divide it by 144. 144 is a random number, but it will give us 0.75 of a pound. So these are the two aspects. Now, the US shipping actually uses volume weight, while Canada, UK, Asia all use the actual kilogram weight. And that's where it becomes a little tricky to manage, but still, it is manageable. Here's how I calculate the price for your game. Let's say you have one SKU. So like I said before, SKU is one product. Okay, so the base game is one SKU, the expansion pack is another SKU, your miniature is a third SKU, and so forth. So let's say your game weighs 1.9 kilos, and the size of it is, let's say you're doing our standard sizes, 2.85 and 28.5 on 6 centimeters. The calculator will give us the exact volume weight of your game, as well as the total weight of your package, including the packaging itself. The volume weight also includes the packaging, an average of the packaging. And then we will be able to calculate. So if your volume weight is 4.3, we simply go between 4 and 5, and your price will be 18.54. Over here, we will still have between 4 and 5, and we get to 29.50. And here we already finished with the US and volume weight, and we will move into actual weight. So we have 2.2. It's a little over 2, and that's why you need to be a little careful not to exceed the number, because right now you just paid another $1, and this might be a big difference in some other places. The UK, not so much. It will still be 1366. EU, you just passed 2, so instead of 1850, you do 1918. And that's why, again, sometimes you want to lower some of the components, you want to make them a little thinner, just to lower the weight enough in the lower price bracket. These countries, for example, their prices change drastically, so you will be paying a lot more money in these countries. If you want to fulfill from Asia, it's the same story. We will simply do the 3.1, the 28.85, 47.23, and 70. So this is how basically we cover everything, all the countries, and you get over here the price for your package. Now there's another charge that you need to consider, and that is pick and pack. And pick and pack per item. So some companies will charge maybe 30 cents, 50 cents. There are a few other charges, but I personally like to keep it simple, not charge anything else but the shipping as well as the pick and pack. So if you have, for example, 2 items, and let's say you have now 2 pick and packs, right? So we need to add, you have an additional item, then there's an additional 60 cents that need to be paid for that item. I just want to repeat. We have volume weight that calculates shipping in the US. We have actual weight that calculates shipping all over the world, the rest of the world, and we have the pick and pack charge. In addition to this, we also have a 20% VAT charge that you need to charge your backers on backer kit. Okay, so when somebody from the UK, for example, purchases your game in the backer kit, when he pays for shipping, you need to add there an additional 20% charge, and he will pay you. Then, once we ship to him, we pay that VAT to the UK government, so he does not need to pay it, and that is what is called friendly shipping. Friendly shipping is the warehouse pays a VAT, or the backer pays a VAT before we ship it. Not friendly shipping is the backer pays a VAT when the game is in customs, and he gets a call and say, okay, you got to pay us another $30. Do it or we destroy the package. So it's a different mentality. Friendly shipping is a lot more streamlined and easier for the end backers, and that is all about the duty and VAT. Another one tip I want to give you, and that is especially in the US, where they ship by volume weight, it doesn't matter how much the box actually weighs, right? So if your shipping box is a little larger, that means you can put additional add-ons in the same box without increasing the price of the fulfillment. So either your backers can be very happy, or you can charge your backers an additional $2 or something for an item. And then, for you it will be basically free because you fill it up in the same box. Now, if you use our standard games, we also have standard boxes that we use for all our shipping and all the boxes, and you can see them over here in inches. So you can see, okay, my box is this size, I have an extra space, what will I put? If you are not using Hero Time, I really recommend you can go to U-Haul, and they have a bunch of boxes you can choose from. very easily. You can do mailers, you can do the flat boxes, and so forth and so on. The lightweight boxes is what we usually purchase. Find whatever size you want, purchase it, buy it, and then you can play around with the volume weight and how much it will actually cost. To manage all these charges for the backers and how much you charge them per SKU, per game, for whatever reward tiers they bought, you will need a pledge manager that will help you manage all of them and have charges on each item. The pledge manager can be a little overwhelming, so I do recommend you get help from someone who has experience with it, so he can help you out with organizing it at all. And now we are getting to the last part, where we will cover simple steps of how to stay organized throughout fulfillment and not get too stressed out. How do we stay organized? The first question that many people ask me is, what is an SKU? Or what is a UPC code? So a UPC code is a code you see right now on the screen. It's this one. And that is a code that you put on the back of the box for a retailer or any shop to scan. Not necessarily Amazon. Amazon have their own codes sometimes, but if you are selling the game by yourself through retailers, this UPC code is important. On top of this UPC code, we also want to have an SKU code. And the SKU code is important for fulfillment centers and warehouses to manage the goods and to know which item are you talking about. So the SKU is better if it's very, very simple and easy to understand. However, if you are using BackerKit or the other pledge managers, they might issue you SKUs themselves. But whatever floats your boat, that doesn't really matter much. You can input whatever SKU you want. If I were doing it, I would choose an SKU that is very simple. Your game name. So let's say it is Dinosaur. So I will call it Dino Rob, if that is your name, and then I will give it a number 2023. And this will be an SKU that I would choose. And then when the warehouse sees his SKU, he knows, okay, this SKU is this product. And he can be certain, 100% sure that he's sending the right product. This is very important because sometimes you have two products that look very similar and the person in the warehouse pick and packing doesn't notice. But if he has this sticker in very large letters, it will be easier for him to notice it. The second thing that we want to stay organized is how to build lists. Okay, and there are two ways of building lists for backers. There is an SKU-based list, and that is what we usually use for UK and EU, largely because in the UK and EU, we need to pay the VAT per item. So this means that every line will have one SKU. So this is the same address, but we're only going to have one SKU per line. And this is mostly to manage the VAT in the EU. The second way of doing it is actually a way that I prefer myself, and we use it for US, Asia, and the rest of the world, is one line per address. And then we outline the SKUs and their quantities on that same line. I think both warehouses can use both methods. When you issue this backer list from your backer kit, make sure you have both options so it's easier for you to handle and manage. The last part of staying organized when you do fulfillment for your Kickstarter is to know when to lock it, when you don't allow more people to purchase more packages. So if you are on a very tight budget and you only want to manufacture the exact number of items, then you want to lock your backer kit just before mass production. So you give them from the sample making all the way, or from the time you finished your campaign, all the way to when you start manufacturing, to input their addresses, to pay for the shipping, to choose whatever items they want. But once mass production starts, that's when you lock it so you don't have any missing components. However, if you have a larger budget and you say that you want to sell the game later on, you want to sell the add-ons later on, you can afford to close the backer kit once mass production is completed, just before shipping, so we know where everything will go. The last and least section of how to stay organized is remembering that there's very high likelihood that some backers will not be happy. Maybe their box got damaged in shipping. Maybe there's a scratch on a card. Maybe a board was a little torn. Whatever happens, some backers might not be happy. It's very important to remember this and to understand and to not freak out when stuff like that happens. It happens to everyone. My course of action and what I always recommend to the creators we work with is your answer should be simple. Thank you very much for your comments. We will take care of all issues once fulfillment is completed. This way, for the month of fulfillment, you gather all the complaints, and by the end, you solve all of them at once. Instead of running around trying to figure out and fixing every single complaint, you wait until the end, you have a list of 10 or 20 complaints for whatever reasons, and then you solve all of them at once. And it will make your life a lot easier, as well as your warehouse and fulfillment center and your manufacturer and everyone's life a lot easier.